Welcome to Bombastic Nation and Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Giant. Yes, I am back on it. And I tell you what, I haven't uploaded in the last, 4 or 5 days. So I think it's four tops. And it's actually quite funny why I haven't uploaded. I started to record something, you know what I mean? I came home from work, I was like, hey, I want to watch some YouTube videos. And I was like, why not record it? So I started to try and record, and the mic will not register. I did everything. I did 3 days. I'm trying to figure it out and stuff like that. Well, actually, the very first day I had the issue, I was like, I'm not taking any chances. I'm buying a new mic. So I went ahead and I bought a new mic. And it took like 2 days to get here. I got it off Amazon. When I got it in was last night, or was it Thursday night? I don't know which one, but I'm in there trying to figure out, man, why wouldn't this work? Why wouldn't this work? And poof, I don't know what I did, but both mics work. So now I have this mic and an extra mic. So it worked out good. I mean, I had to spend some money, but it worked out good because now I have an extra mic. Man, I hope you guys are doing all right out there. Thank you for continuing watching it, and I really apologize for not setting up videos, okay? And I'm going to keep doing it and all of that. Go ahead and keep the comments coming. I love the comments. Keep them coming. And like the video. It helps. And also share it. Just tell your friends. And this one, we're going to do the final episode of Otto von Bismarck. And I think this one is where Germany becomes unified. You know what I mean? All his little plans and thing work. So, I want to see how he did that. Let's YouTube and simmer.
Quarter of a million men had surrendered to them, and the French emperor was their prisoner. It was time to make peace. There was only one problem. You see, capturing an emperor sounds great. It sounds like the thing that happens when you win. But when the emperor is the state, and he's also your prisoner, who do you negotiate with? This was the problem Bismarck was facing. Too much winning. He wanted to make peace, but they had won so much that he couldn't figure out who to make peace with. So when the new...
See, not in this instance here, but you can't make peace by war. Does that make sense? I mean, it might be for a time, but the next generation of people that was conquered or subdued or made to fall in line, they will rebel sooner or later. And sometimes it takes years and years and years for it to happen. You know what I mean? Because when people become powerful, they tend to want to solidify the power, so the violence never really stops. It's hidden, but it's not stopped. I'm not saying that's what's in this case, but as far as human beings are concerned, from my observation of things, that's the way things go.
That he couldn't figure out who to make peace with. So when the news reached Paris on September 2nd, 1870, one of the remaining generals and a few French statesmen declared themselves the government, which they cleverly named the Government of National Defense. Of course, the emperor was technically still alive and hadn't ever abdicated, which was a complication. Also, they hadn't been elected, so where did their legitimacy come from? Well, everybody basically agreed nowhere. This slapdash government maintained some semblance of control by delivering strong speeches about how France wouldn't give up an inch of territory, to which Bismarck responded, Alsace and Lorraine, please. Negotiations with this pseudo-government quickly fell apart. Moltke was pretty stoked. This meant he would get to march on Paris after all. As the Prussians approached the French capital, the Government of National Defense recalled all of France's armed forces from their colonies, their holdings in Italy, and summoned them to the defense of the homeland. Soon they had a formidable force at Paris, at least on paper, and they began to dig in. But Moltke simply surrounded the capital and laid siege to it. One of the main members of the Government of National Defense pieced out via air balloon to see if he could raise an army in Loire. Everybody else stayed put, defenses raised, just waiting for Moltke to try to storm the city. Moltke had no intention of doing something so blindingly wasteful, though. Instead, he planned to simply let Paris starve and wait them out while the rest of Germany's forces patrolled France, crushing whatever other armies the French put in the field. Bismarck argued that they should shell the city, something that Moltke and the general staff felt was inhumane, against the rules of war, and probably ineffective anyway. But as time wore on, Wilhelm got impatient with the rising costs of this siege and ordered Moltke to listen to Bismarck. There is much debate about how much effect the guns had, and whether it was the shelling or just the starvation that led to surrender, but at last, the Government of National Defense signed an armistice. During these peace negotiations, the representative of the Government of National Defense pleaded with Bismarck, saying that if Paris acceded to all demands, it would cause a socialist revolution. Bismarck coolly replied, "Then I recommend provoking an uprising now while you still have an army to crush it." Outplayed at every turn, the Government of National Defense gave Bismarck basically everything he wanted. He got Alsace and Lorraine with nearly 1,700 villages and towns, adding 1.5 million new souls to the German Empire. He
Wow.
got 5 billion francs in gold to be paid as indemnity, and Prussian troops would be staying in France until that was paid, just in case some real French government came along and tried to go back on their deal. Oh, and also, Bismarck got a German empire. More specifically, he forced the French to officially acknowledge Wilhelm as Kaiser, or Emperor, of Germany, the last real step in the unification process.
Woo.
Back when the war first started, the southern German states, the last holdouts, had sort of been absorbed into this growing entity which Bismarck had been putting together. During the war, citizens of Baden or Bavaria or Württemberg had fought side by side with Prussians. It had given them a sense of unity and brotherhood that eclipsed their regional differences, made them an army of Germans fighting together. So now, as the war wound to a close, after experiencing such a great victory through cooperation, these states all voted to become part of something greater, something called the German Empire. Finally, in a scene full of spectacle and drama, on January 18th, 1871,
Gotta wipe the screen
the
down.
leading military commanders declared Wilhelm Kaiser in the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles. And so the glory of war and the pomp and circumstance of imperial dignity played out. Now all that was left was creating a constitution, which Bismarck expedited by convincing the newly formed German Empire to simply adopt most of northern Germany's previous constitution. But with
I know it's storytelling and stuff, but my humble opinion, there's no glory in war. If people die, there's no glory in that. I don't care if it's an enemy, if you feel you hate them, it's a different nationality, a different color, I don't care what it is. There's no glory in war because you have to, how should I put it, level down to the primate in you to kill somebody. I mean, people think it's so easy to kill. Ideology and religion and stuff make it easier to kill because that's in your head. You think you're fighting for some noble cause. It might be noble. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying there's no glory in war. And he said that for the benefit of the storytelling and stuff like that. But I mean, I've been in a small scrimmage, and that small scrimmage was not fun. There was no glory in it. None.
one interesting proviso. All ministries were under the office of Chancellor, and the Chancellor could propose legislation or bring things to debate in any of the parliamentary houses. But the chancellorship itself was granted at the direct pleasure of the king. No other body could remove a chancellor or appoint one. Coincidentally, Bismarck just so happened to be the chancellor of Germany. But even with this broad power over his newly formed empire, even now that he was finally ascendant in Germany and Europe at large, Bismarck now faced a challenge that he had never truly had to deal with before: the challenge of governing. Most of Bismarck's life had been focused on unification,
and getting
on
power,
expansion, and on foreign policy. He'd never before really had to focus on questions of domestic policy for Germany. A new Germany, one sewn together out of disparate people of different backgrounds and different faiths. And here perhaps would be his greatest challenge, because now he had to ensure the continued meteoric rise of this new German empire, while at the same time fending off the jealousies of Europe's existing great powers, so that they didn't band together and crush this fledgling nation. This Herculean effort would take him the rest of his life, and for all of its difficulties would be the triumph of his foreign policy and his political philosophy of revolutionary conservatism. But if Bismarck had one great failing, one true tragedy to his life, it would be that he could not envision a world without Bismarck, at least not until it was far too late. And so all of this effort, all of this work he did to ensure a strong but peaceful future for Germany would wash away in other leaders' hands, feeding directly into the looming catastrophes of 1914. But that's a story for another time. Thanks for watching.
Wow, so all the planning, and well, some of it is scheming too, because diplomacy is scheming. I don't care what you say. They say the word diplomacy because of the meaning of it, but it doesn't mean that's what they're doing, because everything is on the hand in a lot of cases, especially with politics. We call it politics on the island, not politics. But and that's a general statement. I ain't talking about Mr. Bismarck here, man. He really played it up really well and ended up getting what he wanted. Even though the rest of the people coming after him kind of stumbled, he still managed to make it unified. I really enjoyed this series, man. I really did. I hope you guys enjoyed too, you know what I mean, and thing, and keep watching. It's at the bottom here. Click on one of these back bottom here and keep watching. You know what I mean? I'm gonna leave a link in the description for this video, so go check out this channel, see what else they have. You understand? And take care of each other, all right? There's light at the end of the tunnel. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. Do not be blinded by those who just see the darkness. Cool runnings.